Awesome. When you're writing a script or when you're trying to direct a movie or anything like that, do you have any influences, any directors that come to mind, any films in particular?
I tend to listen to a lot of music, a lot of film scores when I'm writing, and that's mainly to just to get a sense of tone. But I mean, I do respond quite excitedly to filmmakers who write their own stuff. I love that Kevin Smith. I remember when I first saw Clerks, I was so crushed that I'd never be able to write anything with that much wit, pace, or charm. So Colin is a silent movie, and there are directors who inspire me, but I think I'm a little bit more. I like the actor's contribution, so I generally focus on structure more than anything else when I'm telling the story. And then I involve the actors. I generally tend to speak to the actors as I'm writing, and then I'll sort of work with them and talk them through their character, and then they'll give me ideas, I'll give them ideas. And the model I'd actually love to be able to embrace is to select the cast, get them together. I'll have the story structured quite precisely and say, right, this is the story we're going to tell. And then we sort of workshop the scenes and take the dialogue that we all create and structure it so that it makes sense in terms of the entire movie, which unfortunately for the actors, I'm usually the only one that has a good idea of exactly what I want to happen from beginning to end, but it's nice to explore it together without any sort of constraints, I guess.
So you seem like your filmmaking kind of style or way you're going to try and set it up is to be not entirely improvised, but very flexible. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, I mean, film's almost it feels like an organic thing. It tends to sort of grow and it can get out of control. So it's good to try and sort of rein it in and bring it to where you want to make sure the story's always going in the direction you want it to go in and the film's feeling right. But I'm also very open to embracing that sort of natural evolution of the film itself. That's certainly what's happened with Magpie. And it happened a lot in Colin, and it's happened in all of my short films. It's because I'm not afraid to say, even though I've got the structure worked out, I'm not afraid to say, ooh, as we're shooting it, I like this movie, that this is a movie we're finding here, we should make this movie, and then just going in a totally different direction with it. Because that ending, because as long as you're sort of geared towards the same ending, you can do whatever you want. It's just a different route to get there. Which is why I struggle with that. Which is why I'm a little bit nervous about working with writers other than myself, because I can do that I can piss all over my own work and it's not a problem. It's really difficult to piss over a writer's work because, obviously it's going to upset them. For me, this is just the system that works for me. It's not necessarily the wrong way, but it's not. But it's my way. So it's I can imagine it's very different. Other filmmakers might look at that and go, "My God, how do you do that without storyboards? You're insane. You're doing it wrong." But that's just how I do it. At this stage, because I'm doing stuff mainly by myself, it's very easy for me to have an overview of the whole thing, because I know exactly what's going on in every department, because I'm probably the guy pushing the buttons. But I do look forward to being able to afford a crew and to be able to let their input expand, be part of this organic thing that grows, because I've just got my ideas for the sound design, for example, and I just have to go around and find a way to make that work. But when I've got a sound designer on board, then that's going to be amazing to me. It's like a whole new buddy to play with in a whole different department, and that's the sort of thing I kind of really look forward to.
I mean, that must be kind of fun. You finally get a big crew and you're kind of in charge of them, so you can kind of put them about like that.
I think it's just kind of nice to be able to have collaborators who you can speak to on a certain level, where they will then speak to you on a much higher level and say, you can do it like this is so much more easier, this is so much more interesting. I like the idea of that excites me a lot. So I love the idea of having a sound designer to be able to talk to, or I've got there was a camera operator on Magpie, quite by accident. He only came down to lend us the lenses, but he said, look, I got my camera, do you want me to pick up and grab some extra shots? I went, yeah man, go for it. And our shots match in terms of style. You can cut into our shots, and they match perfectly in terms of movement. His shots are much better than mine, though. So it's really I want him to work on every single film I do. And as soon as he graduates now, this guy Alex Neville is his name. He's going to be director of photography. I managed to get him a director of photography job on a low-budget independent feature. And I'm really excited about that, because he's going to go off and off the back of that and get other director of photography gigs and come back and say to me, you know what, a gaffer is a really useful thing. We should get some of those. I'll say, great, then you find us some gaffers. And he'll go and he'll start adding more members of the family to our little group, and that's the sort of thing that I quite love. It's working with friends. That I love the idea of.
So, in other words, another way to make a good film is to make a lot of good friends. In other words.
Yeah, I always get confused when I hear other filmmakers say never cast your friends, because I've not had a problem with it. I think what I endeavour to do is to create this really comfortable environment where people can sort of feel like they can suggest ideas and hopefully thrive creatively. Even people who didn't realise that they had an urge to act or to do visual effects or to record sound or anything. I just like the idea of bringing people on board. I mean, there's one guy who's in Colin. He's the first zombie you see in Colin. He had no intention of acting ever, but he came in and we had such a laugh doing Colin that he sort of, through his girlfriend who he met in the movie, which I was really pleased with, because the movie sort of started these relationships. Through her, she's also an actress, he's sort of getting into amateur dramatics, and now he's this amazing actor. It's like, shit, dude, I didn't know you were that good. But he's also a brilliant visual effects artist, and he did all the gunshot effects for The End, my short film. So, and he didn't even open the software until 2 days before he cracked that effect. He's, surround yourself with clever people. It always makes you look really good.
I think that should be the catchphrase for this entire thing. Yeah. So, while you've been here in Sheffield and looking at the No Limits Film Festival, has anything else caught your eye? Not just film-wise, maybe the events. Have you enjoyed yourself while you're here in Sheffield?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been really great socially. I've met a lot of the students who are either here just for the talks or here for the films or have made the films. And it's just been really interesting just to speak to other filmmakers who... That's almost like I'm declaring myself a filmmaker. These guys are certainly filmmakers. Just to speak to these guys and sort of talk about their process and just explain to them what works for me, and which I think is kind of radically different to how they make their movies. And I'm learning from them as well. Saying, well, how do you do that? And it's kind of nice, really. It's I think all I ever try to do is, and I really hope this is how it comes across, is to try to encourage people to keep making films. And and I think the sentence I found myself repeating a lot this weekend has been, "You never feel ready to make a film. You never feel ready to make a feature film. So don't hang about, wait until you feel ready, because you will never feel ready. Just go out and make it, and just try your best, and make a couple of shorts. Kind of what you're doing, and then just get out there and give it a go." And because you'll grow and learn so much more after you make that first one, that your second one should be better, and the third one will be better than that, and so on and so on and so on.
Well, I usually have a bit of a test.
Okay.
Usually to tell the kind of character the person is, and so on and so forth. Can you name me your top 3 films? Yeah. Ever?
Ooh. I'm guessing that your test is if I can. I'm not a true film fan. Is that right? But there's a complicated thing though. I can name what I consider to be top 3. But they're like, there might be about 4 or 5 films in my top 3, so it's not simple.
This test is more an idea of really kind of figure out and pinpoint of how the person's like, because usually you can actually tell how a person's like entirely through their movie taste.
You can tell how I try to ground everyone in the conversations with the films I say I really love, because obviously I'm a huge Spielberg fan, so I love Jaws and E.T. That's kind of my joint top favourite movies. I'm also a huge Peter Jackson fan, so you can start see my mainstream sort of shit coming out now. So obviously I love his King Kong, the original King Kong. Maybe chuck them up there. I love Battle Royale. Ooh, nice. So they're kind of fanboyish movies I've gone for here. But that's not really my top 3. With the exception of Jaws and E.T., which are always placed at the top. The rest of them in serious flux. I love Fargo with a serious passion. Yeah, there's just so damn much. There's so much. It is a difficult one for me to pin down, so I'm just throwing out a bunch of films I love there. 12 Angry Men. And United 93, the Paul Greengrass film, which just doesn't get mentioned that much anymore, but it is an example of just such an amazing movie. It's not the event, it's just looking at it as a film. I think it's an amazing film. So, yeah, sorry, I'll stop, though. I'll chill out now.
Nah, it's fine. The more rambling on, the better. So in other words, from the taste of your movies in general, do you actually dream of one day making something like that, like a really big budget feature kind of thing, like a blockbuster movie?
I'd love to make a really great kids film. Something like the BFG, I think, could be done really well. I've got to get a career first, though. That's the plan. I've got to get something of a career and see if I can But yeah, I think I was speaking to my agents. My agents sort of represent the Roald Dahl estate, and they said to me, I said, "Is there anything Roald Dahl's got going, like Henry Sugar, maybe, or anything?" And they said, "Mark, if Roald Dahl wrote a shopping list, it's been optioned and in development by a major Hollywood studio." I went, "All right, okay, better get that career then." They were like, "Hey, we'll help." so yeah.
It is sort of like a plea to them to say, look, wait for a little while and save me the BFG, I will do this.
I'll try anything just to make the BFG. But no, it's one of those things. I think that I imagine would be quite a large movie. And yeah, but I like the idea of that. I love the idea of making a nice, a film that resonates. That not just a big expensive movie that doesn't mean anything. I'd like to make like say for example of the kids films I'd like to make the sort of kids film that I would see when I was a kid, which dealt with everyday children, normal children in an extraordinary situation, which is kind of the thing I love in all of my movies seem to have that thing. Colin is about ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. Magpie is the same thing. Thunderchild will be the exact same thing, and I think the BFG is exactly that. It's a normal person in extraordinary circumstance, and I just find those sort of stories amazing.
Oh, awesome. I have to say, thank you very, very much for allowing me to interview you. And the fact that we've sort of kind of, I wouldn't call it bonding.
I think we bonded. We have bonded, exactly. We bonded last night, man. We were hanging out, dancing to some ska bands. It was awesome.
That was incredibly special, I have to admit that.
Sharing the last can of beer.
Oh my god, I mean, last night, I'm still kind of recovering from it, to be honest.
That's where we got cokes. We're being very sensible.
We're staying with cokes here. And yeah, while in that, like you said, we're not officially bonding friends until we get our Facebook join.
We have to link up on Facebook. Until then, you're just a stranger. despite the beer can sharing.
But it's absolutely fantastic. And also, not only this, but we have got close, and the idea that you are pretty much living out, at the moment, the beginning stages of what I would like to do, or a lot of student filmmakers, everyone in No Limits would love to do. So you really are sort of like the first big step. And if we can reach up to your step, we're knowing we're doing right. So just say thank you for that.
Oh, thanks, man. In 3 years' time, I'll be a junkie on the streets. Like, I used to be somebody. Don't you know who I am? And of course, no one will know who I am. No one knows who I am. No, it's quite depressing.
Well, hopefully after this interview, there will be something. Let's hope so.
Oh, fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed.
Okay, and one more thing. I've told you about your favorite movies and the influences and all that. Let's go a little bit the opposite. Just to end it off, can you name me the worst film you have ever seen?
Ooh, no, see, this is where it gets quite interesting because I kind of get something usually out of every film I see, and I'm just going to throw it out there. Let's just say The Room, which everyone's quite familiar with, the Tommy Wiseau movie. For a film that's clearly not great, I've seen that movie so many times. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I can get a lot out of even the worst films I sort of sit through. I think the worst crime any film can commit is to be boring. And it's really hard for me to find a boring film. I generally like a lot of what I see. Even if I don't like a film, there'll be something there I can find and say, right, that was really cool. So I've never really thought about what film I hate more than anything else. Because there are films I like that sometimes I'm not in the mood to watch. Does that make them bad movies? Absolutely not. So, yeah.
Well, then that means you haven't seen Meet the Spartans. Or
I saw bits of that. It looked just like 300. It looked like they shot it in a warehouse.
Like I said, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure to interview you, and we'll hope to we'll follow you up maybe in future, see what happens.
We're Facebook buddies. I'll do anything you like whenever you want.
Oh, fantastic. This has been Johan Chapol reporting for thefilmjournal.com and for the No Limits Film Festival, signing out. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much, Mark.